Welcome. Just letting everyone trickle in, and then we'll get started. All right, we can go to the next slide. Letting folks know that this public meeting will be recorded. We may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you're not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and keep your microphone muted, or you may choose to excuse yourself from the meeting. Next slide. And I am going to have Kunthia play us a safety briefing. Did he say he was going to? I thought you were going to read the notes from us. We're going to do both.
No.
Welcome to the Transportation Building Boardroom. Before we begin, please pay attention to this important safety announcement. You are located here. Please take a moment to orient yourself. There are 2 exits in this room. Fire extinguishers are placed by both exit doors. In the event of an emergency, please exit the boardroom through the rear doors and walk down the stairs to exit the building. There is also a secondary exit located at the west entrance security checkpoint staircase. The designated assembly point for the boardroom is 1 floor down, outside on Stewart Street, beside the Dunkin' Donuts. There are 3 automated external defibrillators on site. One is located in back of the boardroom in the kitchen, and the other 2 are past the security checkpoints by the elevators to the east and west entrances. Thank you.
Okay, so this video wasn't entirely descriptive in terms of accessibility, so I'm just going to add additional notes and repeat a couple of things. But there are 2 exit routes. The first is directly behind the rows of chairs and should be taken by anyone comfortably navigating stairs. If you need to use the elevator to exit the building, please exit through the doors to my left and meet in front of the bank of elevators directly outside of that door. This is the rally point to meet first responders. If a striker chair is required, there's one found in the back of the boardroom. Is anyone in the room today CPR certified? Okay, we have 2 folks in the back of the boardroom. If we'll be looking at you for in the event of an emergency. And there's an AED in the office behind me, should one be required. Additional notes on this space. In that office space behind me, there's a quiet room if anyone needs such space during the afternoon. If you'd like assistance, please raise your hand and ask for staff assistance, getting to the back room. And if you need a restroom, they may be found by exiting at the doors directly behind the row of chairs, past the security desk about 30 feet. And if you have any questions, just let us know. And we'll go to the next slide. Our ASL interpreters today are Michael and Luke. The Zoom host will spotlight the interpreter's videos. In general, to pin someone's video in Zoom, find the person's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses, then click the pin option. This will keep the person's video visible on your screen. Next slide. Our CART captioner today is Denise. To access in the meeting controls toolbar, click Show Captions. A tip is to click and drag the captions to move them where you want them in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, in the meeting controls toolbar next to Show Captions, click the up arrow, then click Caption Settings, and next to Font Size, move the slider to adjust the caption size slider. Next slide. If you need any help with Zoom or if you have a technical question about the features of the meeting, please use the chat function. Our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. I'm going to run through our agenda for this meeting. We'll begin with a welcome and Zoom directions. I will give an RTAG update. Then we will have system-wide accessibility updates given by Laura Brelsford. Then we will have a quick feedback session for system-wide accessibility, followed by ride updates given by Chris Jurek, the acting chief of Paratransit Services. Then we will have a ride feedback session and some closing remarks. Next slide. All right, I'm just going to give some updates to folks. But for those who are joining us for the first time, we welcome you to RTAG, or the Riders Transportation Access Group. We're a community-based advocacy group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. We're excited to welcome two wonderful new staff members to our RTAG team, Daniela DePina and Nikolaya Tomacic. They each bring a wealth of personal and professional expertise in transportation accessibility. The RTAG Executive Board has been discussing ways to make our meetings more productive and increase opportunities for community members to participate in meaningful work. As part of this effort, RTAG will begin organizing its work into 4 focused working groups, 3 groups on bus and subway service, and 1 on ride services. These working groups will meet regularly and be open to members of the public interested in participating. Most of RTAG's engagement and work will take place in these smaller groups, while general RTAG meetings will focus on information sharing and welcoming new participants. Each working group will have defined roles and responsibilities focused on key priority areas. 3 of the bus and subway working groups include the first one being blind and low vision accessibility, which will support the rollout of accessible wayfinding technologies, including NaviLens and Iris. Then we have a second group for municipal coordination, which will support the development of an MBTA interdepartmental snow and ice task force and the MassDOT Complete Streets guidelines to ensure our roadway infrastructure is safe for all users, including work on bike lanes and bus stops. And the third fixed route group will be community outreach and engagement, which will increase RTAG engagement with the community and also support the development of the community outreach plan within the system-wide accessibility department and identify best practices for neurodiversity, and doing all this through conducting surveys and outreach with students and disability communities. And then for the ride working group, that work will support the procurements of RideFlex, the track system, and vans, the amendment of the Mobility Center contract, new policy and ride guide updates, communication materials and outreach efforts, and ongoing monitoring and development of spare performance and any other ride concerns that riders have. Under this proposal, working groups, which include RTAG staff and members, would meet monthly with staff from SWA or the ride, depending on the topic. These meetings will be where the in-depth discussions and collaboration take place, allowing community members to engage directly with staff on specific projects. General RTAG meetings would still be held every other month, but these meetings will be open to the public and focus on information sharing and presentations by MBTA staff, like those currently provided at RTAG meetings. This format provides updates and allows community members to ask questions and hear directly from staff about ongoing initiatives. Unlike other meetings, this is not the space for in-depth discussion that will take place in working groups, but this can be the place where concerns or issues are raised and will ensure appropriate follow-up. And at each of the general meetings, we'll have working group representatives briefly update on progress and invite new participants. And we have our dates for April's working groups, and I will give those towards the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? It just gives you an extra moment to look at my face on the screen. Once the presentation's back up, then I'll hand it over to Laura at System-Wide Accessibility. Great. Take it away, Laura.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who are in person, I apologize for not being able to be with you there today. I am recovering from a bit of a stomach bug, but am grateful for the opportunity to share some updates with you virtually. Um, so for those that don't know me, I am Laura Browsford. I am the Assistant General Manager from System-Wide Accessibility. And on the screen, there is a photo of one of our customers stepping out of an MBTA elevator with her service dog. Next slide. So we are approaching the end of March 2026, and it is safe to say that our collective work to improve accessibility has not slowed down this year. We've got a lot of exciting projects in the pipeline, including everything from upcoming work to develop a clear roadmap for achieving accessibility at 100% of our stations. In fact, 25 of our inaccessible stations are actually about to move into construction and be completed within the next couple years, which is very exciting. We are going to be welcoming the first 2 pilot cars for the Green Line Type 10 vehicles later this fall, so that'll be a great chance for us to get out there and check out the next generation of Green Line vehicles. We're also about to put out a brand new elevator and escalator maintenance contract to make sure we are maintaining and improving elevator and escalator reliability. And we're also doing a ton of work to constantly refresh all of our trainings for frontline employees. But as Kat mentioned at the outset, one of the things we've been specifically working on with RTAG and the RTAG Executive Board is the development of something called the RTAG Annual Accessibility Work Plan. So this is a plan where we zero in on the specific projects where we think there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration. These are generally initiatives that RTAG is particularly interested in and will be picking up steam in the new year. So if you go to the next slide, I just wanted to walk through the 4 initiatives that the e-board has recommended being included in the annual work plan. Everything I'm going to talk about is focused on accessibility of our fixed route system, so that's everything except paratransit. When Chris takes over and speaks to the work on the ride, he'll be talking about ride-related initiatives. The first effort I wanted to mention was our work to develop an accessibility-focused outreach plan. So one thing my team is going to be looking at this spring and summer is an effort to take stock on efforts made to get out in the community and spread word about accessibility at the T over the last couple of years. taking stock of what's worked well, what communities we've connected with, and just as importantly, where we think there might be gaps in our outreach and engagement efforts. The overall goal here is to really raise as much awareness and excitement about accessibility at the T as possible. Oh, we really see a big role for RTAG here in helping us review the plan and provide feedback and guidance on the strategies and methods we're planning to use, as well as connecting us with organizations and communities across the system. We also think this is a great chance as RTAG is scaling up its team and as RTAG is doing more and more outreach on their own to figure out how our outreach efforts overlap and can be coordinated to maximize getting the word out into the community. And on the screen here, you'll see a photo of a recent outreach events last year. A bunch of T staff gathered around an informational table at a local community event. Next slide. The second initiative that's going to be included in the accessibility work plan is one that is focused on supporting a snow and ice task force. So it's almost hard to remember how difficult this winter is with the sun shining today. But I think we can all acknowledge this winter was a lot more challenging than recent winters, given the volume of snow we received. And I think internally at the T, we recognize that this is one area where we need to focus more on opportunities for doing things differently. So internally within the MBTA, we're going to be standing up an interdepartmental working group looking at all things related to snow and ice related protocols from the contracts we oversee, as well as the interactions we have with cities and towns. This I know is and historically has been a major interest and priority for RTAG and the disability community in general. So there's lots of opportunities here to continue raising awareness both with the MBTA, but also with local cities and towns, providing feedback on our proposals, and just really working to make sure that this stays an active discussion all throughout the year, not just as we approach the winter months. And on the screen is sort of a famous photo from a while back of a bus stop in Braintree on Washington and Winter Street, where you've got a bus shelter that is actually relatively clear inside the shelter, but snow and ice is piled up all around it. All right, next slide. The third initiative we're going to be working on together is the development of a statewide complete street set of complete street guidelines. This is a major effort being led by Mass DOT. Ultimately, these guidelines are going to replace the existing guidelines that are solely focused on designing bike lanes. This is a huge moment for us in that collectively we're going to be able to work together to find solutions for making sure roadway, bike lane, and sidewalk infrastructure is safe for roadway users, cyclists, pedestrians, transit users, with a lens, with a keen eye on older adults and people with disabilities. RTAG has really been leading this effort in many ways, really work to get the attention of Mass DOT, to get this on their radar and motivate the beginning of the guidelines. RTAG, as well as a number of other disability stakeholders, are going to be consulted throughout the development to offer their perspectives and provide feedback. I expect that those meetings are going to kick off later this summer or early fall. And on the screen, you'll see a couple photos of various bike lane applications adjacent to bus stops throughout the system. All right, and the fourth and final initiative that's going to be in the accessibility work plan outside of ride initiatives is advancing a set of accessible wayfinding solutions. So making it easier for riders who are blind or have low vision to navigate our system, whether that's finding one's way through a station or locating a bus stop, has been a priority of ours for a very, very long time. It's only been within the last couple of years that we feel like we have zeroed in on a couple different technologies that really make a significant difference. We recently presented some proposals to the RTAG board, including feedback on a pilot our technology team ran last spring. We're going to be working to finalize those and advance to some combination of tools later this year. And so RTAG's role will be to help refine those final proposals, and then once implemented, really provide feedback on how they're working. And just as importantly, get the word out to the community that these are resources that are available to riders. And on the screen, we've got an image of a young woman and her service dog looking at a bright QR code at one of our bus stops with a shelter. All right, next slide. So those are the four big initiatives we're going to tackle along with RTAG as part of our accessibility work plan. And a lot of that work will happen within the subcommittees that Kat mentioned at the outset of the meeting. Those subcommittees, working groups are really great ways to get engaged. So if any of these efforts spark your interest, please get in touch with Kat about potentially joining one of those working groups. But in the meantime, I just want to let you know about four other ways actually, where you can get involved over the next few weeks to improve accessibility at the team. Next slide. So some of you may remember for the last few years, we have been developing what is very much a first of its kind technology that will allow riders, when they are traveling with a specialized Charlie card, to navigate through the wider accessible fare gates without having to physically tap their card. So very much like the Easy Pass experience for drivers on the highway, for those of us riders who have one of these cards, we can approach a fare gate and the gates essentially open when the fare gate sensors sense that card or that credential. You can see the little Giphy to the right of the slide where yours truly is navigating through a fare gate. In this image, I had the credential on a lanyard around my neck, and as I approached the gate using my wheelchair, the gate automatically opens, meaning that I did not have to reach into my bag and lean over to tap the fare gate. which is amazing. We currently have this technology installed at 13 gates across the system. By the end of, I'm sorry, 13 stations across the system. By the end of April, that number will be up to 20. And over the next year plus, there will be at least one accessible hands-free fare gate available at each major fare array in each station. Oh, as the gates are rolling out, we are very much in a testing phase. A few months ago, we recruited 25 testers. Thank you very much to those of you here today who have been helping out. And we're just about ready to onboard another 25. We are very much looking for folks who are interested. If you think joining the pilot and getting the opportunity to try out some of this new technology would be a win for you, we would love to hear from you. The best way to get in touch with us is simply email us at accessibility@mbta.com. And you can talk with a member of my team and we can figure out if you're a good match for a pilot and get you set up with one of these credentials to try out. All right, so next slide. Also, another way to get involved, if you are a C branch Green Line rider, we have big improvements coming. You may be aware that we are about to begin construction to make all of the inaccessible stops on the Green Line on the C branch fully accessible by next summer. Designs are wrapping up as we speak, and the final construction schedules are being developed. There's actually going to be an in-person open house this coming Monday, starting at 5:30 in Brookline. This is going to be in Brookline's Town Hall in Conference Room 103. If you need more details, you can go to mbta.com/events. This meeting will provide an overview of the project, as well as some information about how service may be impacted during construction. Next slide, please. All right, and another meeting to make you aware of, every year at the MBTA, we pull together what's called our capital investment plan. This is where every bit of funding we receive, whether it's from fares, the federal government, state sources, are pulled together and allocated to specific projects. And the CIP, as we call it, is the document that accounts for all of that, all of those projects and that work. The plan was developed over the past year with a lot of input from system-wide accessibility. There's going to be a virtual meeting next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. If you're interested in learning more about the plan and what's in it, and voicing your support for accessibility projects, this is a great opportunity. To learn more about the meeting, again, you can go to mbta.com/events. The actual plan itself is going to be released online tomorrow, following the MBTA's board meeting, and there will be a public comment period where you can write in your feedback if you don't wish to attend or share feedback at a public meeting. All right, I've just got one other meeting to put on your radar. This one is a little bit further out. This one is on May 12th. As many of you know, for many, many years, we have always hosted two large public meetings focused on the status of our longtime accessibility settlement agreement, specifically the Daniels Feingold settlement agreement. The MBTA achieved substantial compliance with the agreement last December. And so we had our final official meeting with Judge Patrick King in December. And we have been working to transition to what's referred to as the next generation accessibility agreement. As part of that agreement, we committed to continuing on hosting these 2 semi-annual meetings that are focused exclusively on fixed route accessibility. So essentially everything except paratransit. And the first one under this new series is going to be on May 12th at 2 o'clock. It will be hybrid, both in the boardroom and virtual. We haven't posted this online yet, but keep an eye out on our website. We would really love to have you there and keep the dialogue and momentum going. And this photo is from a public meeting where our general manager spoke about his commitment to the MBTA. And he's looking forward to joining us on the 12th. So a great chance to hang out with the general manager for a bit if you like. All right, last but not least, I just want to leave you, as always, with some key ways to keep in touch in between meetings. The most important thing I want to highlight here is if you ever run into an issue or have a question about accessibility, the best way to get in touch with us is by calling 617-222-3200. For TTY users, that's 711. That will take you to our main customer support call center. You can also reach them by filling out a contact form online by going to mbta.com. We also have a bunch of resources that you can peruse at any time. Easiest place to start diving in is by going to mbta.com/accessibility. And with that, I will turn it over to Kat, and I'm happy, and my team who's with you in person are happy to take any feedback or questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Laura. We'll go to the next slide. Great. For in-person questions or comments, please raise your hand or indicate that you would like to ask a question. Please wait for our assistant, Glenda, to hand you a microphone. And if you're using ASL, please stand if you can. We may ask you to adjust your location so that the online interpreters can have a clear view of you. Next slide. For virtual comments or questions, in the Zoom controls, click Reactions, then click Raise Hand. Participants can also raise or lower their hand with these keyboard shortcuts. If you're using a Windows laptop, you can click the Alt and Y keys. And if you're using a Mac, you can click the Option and Y keys. And for participants calling in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And I will see if there's anyone in the room first with any questions for system-wide accessibility. Okay, great. Yeah? Do you have a question? Okay, great. There's a microphone right behind you.
Should I stand up or? I just have a couple of questions about the track and using track for getting rides. And if there have been some glitches with that, which I just want you to respond to how that is occurring, because I've made many calls in about it.
Could I have you hold on until after the ride portion to ask your question?
All right.
Thank you so much. I am going to go online to the hands raised. And again, this is just questions for system-wide accessibility and fixed route. Dayon, your hand is raised.
Yes, it
So now I'm mute.
yes it is. I have a question. You were talking about a pilot program that has the passes. Does the blind access card count as well for that? And I would like to be a member of the blind committee about transportation, including the working group on the ride and the blind committee.
Great, thanks.
Yes. So the answer is yes, definitely. If you have a blind access pass or any reduced or free credential, that benefit will be transferred over to the hands-free card. So it's tied to your existing reduced fare account, or in the case of a blind access pass, a free account. So absolutely, if you are a member of a reduced fare program and you're interested in hands-free, please reach out to us. Again, accessibility at mbta.com is a great way to do that.
Thanks, Laura. And Dayon, yes, we can definitely follow up after this meeting to discuss working group participation. Will, your hand's up next.
I'm just wondering if there's any participant. I'm just wondering if there is, if you guys discussed any of the older stations, such as the ones on South Shore, like Kingston, Mass, and any upgrades to these hour lines at all.
Thank you, Will.
So, yep, that's a great question. So, in terms of our work towards making stations more accessible, I will say our primary focus at the moment is focusing on stations that are completely inaccessible. Because believe it or not, we still have 48 of those. So the good news is, as I mentioned, 25 are about to move in construction and be resolved. But that still leaves nearly 24 we've got to figure out. So the roadmap we're going to be developing will initially prioritize work at those locations. But the roadmap is also going to include plans for existing stations, for stations where there's some accessibility today, but upgrades may be needed because it's not adequate or it's started to degrade over time. So those are absolutely some of the considerations we'll be bringing to RTAG. But yeah, thanks for the question. That's a really good one.
Thanks, Laura. Will, I see your hand is up again. Do you want to respond to Laura's response?
Yes, I just want to say thank you. Also, I just want to ask because I was asking because our digital signs that says like when the train's arriving is starting to it's pretty old and it's kind of getting starting to like skip parts of the messages and it's just becoming ridiculous and it was difficult to read. And
Okay.
the concrete is starting to break up on the ground as well.
Which
A bit.
specific, do you have specific stations?
It's just the MBTA is doing pretty good at keeping the concrete situation, but from what I can see, I live in the town of Kingston, so I just noticed Kingston's sign is just like starting to have some issues, some electrical sign. If you guys can take a look at the Kingston Plymouth old line, now it's just a Kingston line.
Okay.
So, well, that's actually really helpful feedback. We definitely don't need to wait to develop a master plan to make sure we've got staff going out there to check to see if there's some upgrades that can be made in the short term. So let us talk with our colleagues in railroad apps about Kingston and see what we find. If there's any more specific details you want to share about Kingston, feel free to send them to Kat or my team at Accessibility at MBTA.
Okay, thank you. And one last thing, will the presentation be online and after this meeting?
Yes, our recording will be available with the presentation slides online. Usually it gets posted in a week or so. So just where you see the events on the MBTA page, you can get the link for the recording there.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to you guys again, and just to clarify, the it's just not a Kingston stop. The entire Kingston line is having, I believe, can be worked on like the signs.
All right, that makes it a little easier. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
Jill, your hand's up next.
Kind of a follow-up to Will's question or comment. As someone who's like having to figure out physical mobility, like recently, I'm encountering a lot of stations that are like partially accessible. Like a big one I encountered is like Tufts, and it's very accessible on the hospital, the main building hospital side, but not at all accessible or partially accessible on the Tremont Street side. And like I got stuck in between like the platform and the large amount of stairs at Tufts because it's not indicated well on the website that it's only accessible from one side. For me, like had I known that, I would have planned a ride for that, for walking on that side when I had to go to a doctor's appointment. So my question is, I wonder if there is a way for the MBTA to make it like more obvious on the website when like a station is only partially accessible. Hopefully that makes sense. And thank you for fixing elevator 808 at Park Street and reopening it.
Oh, great. I'm glad that is making a difference. Yeah, I think that the example you share about Tufts is a really important one. That is one station where we have two entrances and only one of them is accessible. Certainly down the line, it is our goal to make that second entrance accessible as well. But that is certainly not going to happen in the near term. So I agree with you. I think one opportunity we have is to take a look again at our website, as well as sort of signage around the station to see if there's a way we can make sure that riders are aware of that so that they can better plan on, when and where they're getting on the train and how they're approaching the station so that there's not any surprises there. That's great feedback. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Laura. Nicholas?
Hi, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for this presentation, Laura. Wanted to just raise another event that had happened. I'm a vision impaired individual who takes the T in from the North Shore. It is often that the commuter rail lines tend to have diversions due to switch repairs or what have you. There's been a number of instances where we're diverting trains to either start or terminate at Swampscott, which is not an accessible station. There aren't truncated domes or rumble strips along the edge of the train platform, so on and so forth. I did file a ticket and I did hear back from folks regarding this specific event, but I think my question is more so, are we doing ADA surveys of stops before we're designating them as a termination point? I mean, if we can try to prevent exposing passengers to potentially dangerous situations and just pick a different spot to terminate, that might be a better option. So I'm just curious what that process looks like.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the short answer is yes. To some degree, we absolutely look and provide feedback on alternates service locations that are used during diversions. But I will say candidly, particularly in the context of commuter rail diversions, there are not always a lot of great options. First and foremost, what we look at is whether or not level boarding is available at the station, meaning is at least part of the station platform elevated so that folks have step-free access. That's a minimum requirement. We also make sure that that portion of the platform has detectable warning panels or truncated domes. Um, and that's the case at Swampscott. What we don't currently do is we have not been vetoing locations where there's not detectable warning panels throughout the full length of the low-level platform. The reason is that there are a number of these locations today in the system. And if we ruled all of those out, we would not be left with many other opportunities. I will say it's really important to emphasize we've been working for quite a while on trying to figure out ways to expand detectable warnings at locations where they're lacking today. And for reasons that I won't go into right now, it's much more challenging than it seems like it should be. I'd be happy to talk offline about this at any point. Um, but that is the reality, at least up to today. That has not been something that for which we've ruled out locations. But again, we're focused on making sure that what we refer to as sort of the primary accessible area of the platform, that that's available and that there are detectable warnings there.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you, Laura. I think that if that's going to be the approach, obviously staff education and making sure folks are actually looking for individuals who have disabilities to help guide them or to help them to the appropriate area would be obviously a logical next step, but that's not going to be a stopgap for any type of risk. So I do appreciate that, and I respect the totality of the situation. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just will say one last thing there. I think sort of in the conversations about Swampscott, what that motivated is as we're trying to figure out ways to advance the installation of new detectable warning panels, we're going to prioritize locations where diversion spots may pop up, like Swampscott, for example. So, yes, if we are able to sort of untie that knot, Swampscott is going to be higher up on that list to get panels before other locations.
Great. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Laura. Any other questions for system-wide accessibility, either on their annual initiatives or bus or subway service? Will?
I'm just wondering if I know is there any change it sorry, trying to okay. Do you guys have any plans to like once when you guys are building new stations, are you going to be possibly building inside areas so people can stay out of the cold who might have a disability that cannot be in the cold or in the and they have to be in a climate controlled area?
Yeah, that is a great point. I think one, many of us would agree would be a great feature. I know this winter was a big reminder of that. I will say at as many locations as possible, we work to make sure that there are shelters throughout the commuter rail network in particular, there's often very limited opportunities to have more robust structures and interior space where folks can actually keep warm. But that is feedback that, we can certainly take back to our engineering team and railroad ops and remind folks about why this matters in particular for older adults and those of us with disabilities.
Okay, I just want to say thank you for everything you guys do because it sorry, it'll help a lot if everyone has a voice in this, and I just want to say thank you for everyone you guys do.
Thank you,
You're
Will.
very welcome. Thank you.
Stephen?
Yes, good morning, Laura. It's Stephen, National Federation of Blind in Massachusetts. I would like to be added to the wayfinding blind group and the ride group, but can you say more about what apps or technology are we thinking about using for wayfinding? I thought I read about Google Lens and about, is it Ira you were saying? Which if I'm thinking this is the IRA, is that the one where you can call a volunteer and have real assistance, or something else that is using the same name of IRA?
Yep, absolutely. I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what we've been talking about most recently, and Kat will definitely add your name to the list of folks who are interested in the blind low vision working group. But I will say the two technologies that we are most focused on now, and we definitely still have a lot of homework to do here, but it's a combination of IRA, which for those that don't know, this is a technology where folks who have access to a smartphone can connect with a live agent who leverages the rider's camera on their cell phone and then verbally describes to the rider exactly what's in their field of vision. So IRA's really cool in a variety of scenarios. You get real-time verbal descriptions of your environment.
Laura, Stephen, again, follow up for that. So are you saying the MBTA will be it'll be zone access, that we would be able to use it as 3 minutes then, as being like zones, or it will still be the actual users who already has a plan with IRA? Because I think a few years back ago, there was that pilot program to say that if it was a bus stop.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. No, yeah, great question. So the short answer is we're still figuring out what it might look like. We haven't made any final decisions, but theoretically, if we went forward with a contract with IRA or an IRA-like product, likely the goal would be to make it free for riders who were on the MBTA. So using sort of geofencing technology, the IRA folks would know whether or not you qualified for free minutes, and it would not draw down from your own accounts. And then I'll just quickly mention that the other technology we piloted last year was Navalins. This is a newer technology that's becoming more popular at some major transit systems. This is a technology that leverages really brightly colored QR codes. And by holding up your smartphone, if you've got the Navalens app, the existence of these QR codes will basically be able to tell the app where you are and provide you directions to your bus stop or around your environment. The testing revealed that it was a highly successful tool, usable tool for folks. There are certainly complications we at the MBTA need to think through, but long story short, those are the two technologies we're really interested in and look forward to working with RTAG to make some final recommendations.
Thank you for the answer. I look forward to being part of the subgroup with the wayfinding.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. I will make sure to follow up with you after this meeting. And
Thank you, Kat.
At this time, just to be conscious of time, I am going to move on to the ride portion so we can move to the next slide. And I'm going to pass it over to Chris to discuss ride updates.
Thanks, Kat. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm Chris Jurek. I'm the interim chief of paratransit services here at the MBTA for the ride. Next slide, please. Okay, Laura had sort of alluded to, we're going to talk through here some of the projects and work areas we've identified for inclusion in the accessibility work plan with RTAG for this year. And they represent some of the big focus areas for our team as we look forward to what we're going to work on for the rest of the year. The first one here is sort of an always sort of issue for us, which is that the ride service is largely contracted out to a number of different vendors and a number of different contracts. And so we always work with RTAG to make sure there's RTAG representation in those procurement processes. And we find ourselves currently at what we sort of refer to as the end of a contract cycle. So all of our major contracts have been or will be up for renewal sometime in basically last year and this year. We recently completed the non-dedicated service provider RFP process, which resulted in a board vote. Last month or the month before, I believe, where the awards were approved for Uber, Lyft, and Userve going forward, which will start sometime in the next couple of months. And so, as always, we appreciate the engagement from RTAG in that process. We also just wrapped up the reprocurement for the contract for TRAC, the Ride Access Center. That one has not been awarded yet, so can't sort of talk about the results publicly yet, but that will be going to the board shortly as well. The big one we do have sort of upcoming is the dedicated service provider contracts. These, currently we have Veterans and We Drive You as our two main dedicated service providers. Their contract will end June of next year, so we are beginning to start the procurement process. Our team has been doing some industry outreach. We held some industry discussions with potential bidders who would be interested, trying to just understand, what about sort of our contract structure and some of the requirements we have in our contracts that make it either more or less attractive for some of those outside companies to bid on the work. Obviously, our goal here is to make sure we drive as much competition as we can and make sure that there are plenty of companies interested in working with us. So as we work through that, we're going to be working then on putting together what is sort of we call the scope of work, which is the core description of the work that the providers would need to provide under this contract. And so, we'll be looking to work with RTAG as we think through that. We feel generally that the current contracts we have are by and large pretty good. When we redid these in 2019, we spent a lot of time going through basically line by line of contract language to try to tweak things and get it right. And so we've identified a few key areas that we're looking to review in this round of contracts. And so that's what we'd be focusing on, obviously, as well, getting RTAG community customer feedback there as well. And then eventually the goal will be to be in a place where we can award new contracts for the dedicated service providers by the end of the calendar year. So that means, probably later this spring, we'll be looking to officially start the procurement process. Next slide, please.
What is an RFP?
Oh, Good question. Thank you. An RFP is a request for proposals, so it's one of the vehicles by which we conduct the public procurement process, and we let interested parties, companies know that we have a amount of work that we're looking to have someone provide, and so we put that out in the RFP document, and then they come back to us with their proposals on how they can meet those requirements. And then we go through an evaluation process there and eventually get to selecting awarded companies. Okay, with that said, the next area here is one I'm pretty excited about, because this is something we've talked about and heard customer feedback on a long time, and frankly has been a little bit tough, and that's the area of our vehicles. And I'm thinking particularly of our cutaway vans. We use a model of van that has been very reliable and works very well for our service, and particularly the downtown core of Boston, where we're in other parts where we have really narrow streets and really tight intersections. And so this is a van, there's not many of them that can actually, navigate all of those areas and still not get stuck or find themselves stuck in dead-end streets or things like that. So, but we also recognize that the ride quality sometimes, meaning the comfort of those vehicles, is not what you would expect. But we've also heard other things, whether it's about how do we secure and store baggage or other customer items, or the seating combinations. And so what we're taking a little bit of a step back here, and knowing that we're going to be starting to replace some of our existing fleet in the upcoming years, we really want to engage with RTAG and customers to sort of understand what would you want in a vehicle if we're out here and sort of starting from first principles again. What types of things are there? Certain features. There's a lot has changed, obviously, in technology, but also the general vehicle marketplace since we first started using the vehicles we have now. Additionally, we call them sedans because they are not lift-equipped vans, but we currently use the Ford Flex and a Transit Connect. Technically, neither of those are a sedan, but both of those are no longer made in North America. So when it comes time to replace those, we're going to need to find a new vehicle type again. So again, trying to think about the fleet and the vehicle types as a whole here, and make sure we're thinking really thoughtfully about how we move forward with procurement. And so, from that feedback, we're hoping to drive, some industry discussions and try to understand what is out there in the marketplace, what sort of configurations, customizations can be made for some of these vehicles, and then move towards a fleet plan that takes that into account. So again, this is one I'm personally excited about, and I think, we're targeting in next month to start some of those conversations. Kat, hoping we can dedicate a meeting in one form or another to really trying to get some feedback, and hopefully maybe we'll get some of the current vehicles on site, and we can at least get some feedback about what does and doesn't work for those. Next slide, please. Okay, the third area here is really focusing on our communication materials. This is an area where we have in the last couple of years really started to put a lot more focus on trying to make sure we're putting out more materials in different ways and in different formats and on different topics than we have perhaps historically. Our team has been working specifically on developing, calling them sort of ride guide supplements. So, little additional pieces of information in whatever form that targets perhaps, users who use a wheel mobility device, or blind, low vision customers, or those who are either a parent of a minor ride customer, or people who travel with children. And just trying to make sure that we are really highlighting some of the information and policies and procedures that are specific to those customers, recognizing that the ride guide, which we've worked on simplifying, in the last year or so. But there's still a lot of information about the ride in there, and trying to make sure we're highlighting for people the information that's most relevant to them, so they understand what their ride experience will be like. We'll also be looking to talk about ride guide updates overall. Our next sort of revision of the ride guide is targeted to happen in August. So leading up to that, we'll be having conversations, see if there's anything that we need to add or change as we move forward there. Next slide, please. And the last section we have here is sort of ongoing performance monitoring of the ride. And we've started talking some about sort of different metrics, different pieces of data that we can be sharing, particularly with the working group going forward. But I think we're looking to continue some of the stats we've shared in the past, perhaps in a different format. But we're talking about on-time performance overall for the ride, talking about some of our measures of when we talk about service efficiency and productivity, including that, looking at measures for trip length, as well as what we call excessively late trips. So those where pickup is more than 30 to 60 or 60 to 120 minutes late or later than that. Also keeping an eye on the call center performance metrics. We haven't talked a lot about those lately because the call center has been doing pretty well, but our average speed of answer, which is sort of the average hold time to get someone on the phone at track, and also sort of how long it takes to resolve any given call there. But also monitoring too we're calling it sort of the app bookings, which is the amount of trips customers are booking themselves, either using the web app or the smartphone app that we have recently launched through Spare. We've seen that approaching close to 30% of trips being booked that way, and that's starting to change the number of calls that end up going into track, because customers are able to either get ETAs or book trips on their own now that they don't have to call in for anymore. So watching both of those together is helpful to think about how the whole system's performing too. And then always, continuing to look at the questions of customer feedback and complaints and the rates of complaints we get, but also, looking a little more deeply at the types of complaints we have and where, that may be identifying for us collectively here if there are, problems or issues we should be taking a look at working on together. With that, those are the 4 slides I had, Kat. I'll give it back to you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. We can go to the next slide. Just a reminder for in-person attendees, please raise your hand or indicate that you would like to ask a question. Please wait for our assistant to hand you the microphone. And if you're using ASL, please stand if you can. We may ask you to adjust your location so that the online interpreters can have a clear view of you. Next slide. Could we just go to the next slide? Sorry. We go to the next slide. And for those who are virtual, in the Zoom controls, click reactions, then click raise hand. Participants can also raise or lower their hand with the Alt and Y key buttons on Windows and the Option and Y key buttons on Mac. And participants calling in by phone can click *9 to raise hand and *6 to unmute. And I will go back to our in-person attendee who asked a question earlier.
Hi, my original question was, have you experienced that the Spare app is glitching, and are you looking for a new application or trying to get a new vendor to upgrade it or debug it? because I would also respectfully request that there's some kind of flow chart about what to do if certain glitches arise, other than call the port track, the MBTA line or the track people that really can't debug it easily.
Yeah. What kind of glitches have you been experiencing?
Should I tell the truth? Okay. What? There's been times when I couldn't be located, actually, after meetings at the BCIL in Dorchester, in two particular times. And I don't know if it was an app glitch or a GPS glitch, but Lyft and the ride could not locate me. They kept going to a closed hospital nearby, and I don't know if they recognized the location at BCIL. I'm sure many people take the ride there. That's the Boston Center for Independent Living. So after I finished a meeting, I was out there and finally got a supervisor who could override that whole sending them to maybe that wrong location. And it took about 2 to 3 hours in the cold after they had closed. I got into one place around the corner, and I finally got a supervisor. But just what I would say is having some like protocols. So if this happens, which we hope it won't for other people, what should we actually do? I was very persistent over time, and that actually helped. But I don't want to, after track might be closed or whatever, you might not get somebody there. What should one do? Because this was definitely after work hours.
Yeah, so definitely for any trips in progress, on the day of, that's track is the right place to direct those concerns to. Definitely,
Yeah.
I think. It sounds like to me, if I'm guessing, it sounds like this could have been a map address issue where it's not, for whatever reason, putting the pin in the right spot. And so track has a process for reviewing those and making sure they get corrected. Sometimes it's a problem with Google. Sometimes it's a problem with, there's a couple of ways it could be, or, just putting the address into the spare system is coming up with a different result. So they will sort of troubleshoot that and try to make sure it gets corrected. But I'll also, I'll make sure they specifically look to make sure that location is coming up correctly in the system too.
Any tech tips that could be added to the app, like restart the whole program or make sure you've upgraded? All those, which one forgets to do in the heat of the moment would be, any additional information could be
That's
great for these rare and maybe rare situations.
Yes, I agree. We are working, so we do the track can answer some pretty basic questions about how to use the app for customers, but which is, I'll say, a little bit different than this. But so the mobility center is doing more app-focused trainings with customers and helping customers directly with sort of knowing how to use the app. And I think as part of those communications, it's a good point of making sure we're also identifying some tips for customers about what to do when you do have an issue. And clearly, okay, call track if it's trip related, but if there's an app related thing, a couple of basic troubleshooting steps, I think we can make sure those are available to help people out.
Yeah, thank you for that. And is there someone I can email with?
Yeah, I can
email back and forth with?
Someone from the team can connect with you right here.
Okay.
Following the meeting, someone from the RIDE team will connect with you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I am going to go to one person online, and then we'll alternate. Dayon?
Yes, thank you very much. On February 12th, 2026, the ride driver left me behind. I had a schedule to go to 167 Holland Street in Somerville to get my high school equivalency credential. I had someone come work with me at that building. It was 7:30 a.m. I called track they said they will be there. Now, your estimated time of arrival is actually your estimated time of denial, because I filed a complaint with the MBTA and they got back to me and they refused to hold a hearing to get the no-show removed from my record. This is why I think system-wide accessibility and the ride should have a mentoring program so I don't get stuck at home. This is one of the reasons why I was afraid to come to RTAG, because I don't want to be a no-show again. Because this has happened multiple times where the ride has left me multiple times. And on February 12th, Chris, that was a prime example. February 12th was an example of you guys not doing your job. I was there, I got the call, I got the text, and I was in the living room, because now I don't know if it's the old text from previously or whatever. This has got to stop. There has to be accountability. This is why the paratransit is actually paralyzing people from actually going out and doing things, because the ride takes money away, and then all of a sudden they don't come, and then you have another trip that you booked. Sorry, we can't do anything. And on the 13th, I got a response saying, "Oh, the guy was there," but and I get blamed for it, and there's no tribunal to prosecute the ride driver, because you leave somebody and they're in the living room at all times waiting for you. And this has got to stop. I missed my class to get my high school diploma. This is important.
Thank you, Dayon.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I mean, I'll take a look both at the response, Dan, and what happened on that trip specifically, since that's one you highlighted. I don't know, obviously, the details of where the driver showed up or what happened, so I can't really say much more than that. But I hear you and understand the importance of this, so I'll take a look.
We'll go back to an in-person. Daniela, I believe your hand was raised. The microphone is coming your way.
Hi, I wanted to know what work is being done. We're seeing some of the glitch in the system where consumers will call the day before and cancel their trip the day before the appointment date. But then there seems to be a glitch in the system where the ride will still come. They'll get the 60-minute call that they're on their way. And then the consumer will call and say, "Hey, I don't know what's going on. I called last night and canceled my trip." And then the dispatcher say, "Okay, it's fine. We take care of it." But then the driver still shows up on the door. That's been happening multiple times. And then also, when you no-show 3 times, you get penalized. So, but we also know that there's this a glitch in the system. And then also what is being done where you get that 10 minutes call that they're on their way, so then you prepare to go outside to wait for your ride, but then either they get an add-on or ask to be going somewhere else, and then you're stuck outside for an hour when the automatic system told you that you should be outside within 10 minutes because your ride is coming. So I was just curious what work is being done in these small glitches so I could support my consumers. Thank you.
Thank you. The first one, I think, are you talking specifically about trips for eligibility appointments, or just any trip? Okay. Yeah, I mean that one. So we did have a little problem originally with some of the trips for eligibility appointments not getting canceled, even though customers had canceled, and some of that was, I mean, frankly, there's a new workflow for how the trips for eligibility appointments are getting booked, and so I think we've addressed that. This one I have not heard about. I mean, it sounds like trips not getting canceled. That we can take a look to see if there are any other occurrences of that. but generally the system automatically should cancel that out, and there shouldn't certainly not any day of service notification should be sent if customers are canceling the day before. So it sounds like that could be there. It's possible either.
They say it was a glitch. There was something going on with the system.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
It's been multiple times. So I just wanted to make sure, because you do get penalized if you get those no-show 3 times, and it shouldn't be fair, especially if consumer had called.
Absolutely, certainly, yeah. And that's one. I mean, again, certainly, if a customer had put in a complaint on that and they looked into it, they would reverse the no-show after the fact, recognizing that the customer did call in to cancel. So, your second part of your comment already.
So my second question was, consumers be getting called 10 minutes early that they're on their way, and then they go wait outside, and then within the 10 minutes either they get add-ons, or then it could be an hour or hour and a half of wait after they got their 10 minutes call.
Yes, and I know this has come up a couple of times. I mean, I think particularly the concerns about the ETAs, and then how them not getting adjusted perhaps after things change, and we're working on a couple of fronts on this with. Both with our track team and dispatchers, making sure people know how to get the full use of the system we have, but also there are some changes, configurations to the spare platform that we are expecting to make over the next, I'd say the next few weeks, that we think will help with the accuracy of the ETAs and the ability to be able to better reflect, the conditions like that. So I could say sort of stay tuned, and hopefully customers will start to see that improvement as we go forward here. And certainly the next time we talk, I can bring with more information on that as well.
Yeah, because just to keep in mind, like when consumers get a 10 minutes call and go, wait, there's consumer with mobility issue. They can't wait outside longer, especially if like the doctor's office or whatever office is closed, and they might miss their chance of getting back inside. So, obviously we know we can't control the traffic, things happen, but I just wanted to let you know that this is what we face. Like especially with consumer with mobility issue, you get in the 10 minutes call, of course you want to go and stay ready, but then if you're standing ready and they're not coming, how do you get back inside with the mobility issue? So there's a sort of like a safety concerns.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. Is it Elise or Alice?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have 2 questions. One is, I wondered whether instruction is going to be provided on the use of the app with voiceover for blind and visually impaired customers.
Yes, yeah, we are working with the Mobility Center to offer some additional app training. So I'm hopeful we can have some more information to share about that too next time.
Okay, thank you. And the other issue is I'd just like to have the drivers reminded to introduce themselves when they come to pick up a passenger. I mean, they ask me my name, which is fine, but being blind, I recognize some voices, but it would be very helpful if they would just remember to introduce themselves.
Okay, that's good feedback.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions in the room? Okay, I will go to Valerie.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to turn my camera on there. Okay. A couple of things. First, I was wondering if the MBTA will be approaching the state legislators' joint committee on financing or whatever committee it is, to discuss their concerns about a new decision that's being put on the ballot to reduce the taxes from 5% to 4%, and how would that affect particularly the ride?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure sort of what the agency is thinking on that.
Valerie,
Okay.
there is an MBTA board meeting tomorrow morning. That might be a better place to ask that question during public comment.
All right. The next thing is is this appropriate time to speak about the flex? Are they considered part of the ride?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The flex is, I think, is an excellent program, particularly when you can use a hybrid method of taking the ride van to a doctor's appointment and then using the flex so that you don't have to wait and you can be picked up. My only concern with the flex are two things: communication. When the driver arrives, they send you a message, "We will be leaving in 5 minutes." I'm 75 years old. I can't get from my bedroom to the bathroom in 5 minutes. So, if I'm at a doctor's appointment and I get a message that you have 5 minutes to come outside, the driver doesn't, come to see if you're there. The driver doesn't leave his or her vehicle. And many times they're either on the phone or just not really looking around. But there's no way to communicate with the driver. And a few times I have been left and I'm yelling and waving my arms and they're still going. So this 5 minutes time to get to them doesn't seem to be appropriate when you're dealing with people who are elderly or disabled. So I'm wondering if the MBTA can do something about that. And secondly, if there's a financial mistake made, that may be an overpayment or the driver left and you're trying to get your refunds back because the money is taken directly from your bank account, there is absolutely no way to directly contact anyone who's providing flex services. I use the app, and I'm not a fan of AI, but I know that that's the future. So we need to learn how to deal with it. But I was on the phone for 2.5 hours talking to a chat bot. And finally, after putting in real person, real person, real person, real person, real person, I finally did get a real person. But is there some way that the MBTA can allow a customer service number for Flex in the same way that they have a customer service number for the ride? And then lastly, on a positive note, I left my black fanny pack in the Flex ride, and the seat was black, so I didn't see it. There was $100 in cash, credit cards, my Social Security, Blue Card, and everything was returned to me. A ride driver brought it back to me about 3 or 4 days later after they, took it back from Lost and Found and all that. So I just want to thank members of the MBTA, the ride, the Flex, and your staff during this time in our country when honesty and integrity seem to be a question. The ride certainly demonstrated that those values still exist. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm happy to hear the Lost and Found worked and got you back your items too. Yeah, I'll talk about. I mean, on the ride flex and the customer support piece, and this is it's a little tricky, right? Because part of essentially the premise of the Ride Flex program is that we're providing basically vouchers or coupons for customers who decide to sort of opt into this program and use it for their Uber or Lyft trips. But in that setup, we the T really are removed from customers are booking their trips directly, right, with Uber and Lyft. So we don't have the ability to really provide a lot of customer support in that. And trust me, I'll say I hear you on the sort of the AI chatbot response process. I was stuck in a call, on Friday with the same thing, so I can relate. But there's a little bit of the trade-off here with that program in general, which is like in that customers, this is we call it a customer choice use program, meaning customers are opting in to this program, but then also have to bear some of the, the responsibilities of having to go through some of these process directly with these companies instead of through the MBTA.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Valerie.
Thanks, Valerie. Shannon?
Yes. Actually, mine was similar to Valerie's regarding the Flex program. A lot of times, drivers they will come. They won't come. They'll come arrive in back of my house, which is a different street, and I'm calling them or texting them, telling them they're on the wrong street. They need to come one street over because I can see them, but they don't answer their phones and they don't respond to the texts. And a lot of times, some of the people they don't speak English very well. And I realized what your coworker just said in terms of, bearing the brunt of some of the issues with customer service, but how I'm trying to let them know they're on the wrong street, but yet, like I said, they're not answering the telephone, and then wherein you can communicate with them directly, and they're not answering the phone and they're not responding to texts.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I mean, and these are, and certainly in instances like this, again, because our relationship with Uber and Lyft, but we will bring concerns like this to them to make sure they are aware, that customers are experiencing these issues, and making sure that they're at least looking into them, understanding them, and understanding whether the cause is driver or or something else that's going on there. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Ride Flex, it's the same Uber and Lyft experience that anyone else outside of the Ride Flex program gets. And it's a little bit of
I was gonna ask that. Is there any differentiation for them in their system that we're ride patrons?
No, to the drivers, there is no different.
Because a lot of times I use a rollator walker, and a lot of times they won't even get out of the car to assist me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do okay by myself, but at least they can ask, and sometimes they don't. But what I've started doing is, when they don't assist me, I just don't tip them, and then I'll indicate, like instead of giving 5 stars, I give them 4 and indicate a customer service issue.
Yeah, it is I mean, frankly, is totally driver dependent. It would be nice if everyone would at least make the offer of assistance, but that's
Yeah,
not the case.
yeah. All right. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to bid you good afternoon because I need to come off of this and move on to something else.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yes, you're welcome. Take care.
Before I go on to Nicholas, I'm just going to share a chat from Nora. She says the MBTA really needs to do education about Ride Flex. This misunderstanding that it has the same level of service/support as the ride is something that is not going away, and the Mobility Center really needs to do some aggressive education about it. Nicholas?
Yes, just continuing the same thought of the Ride Flex. Hearing you guys say that you are, and I may have misunderstood, but it sounds like you guys are actively at least engaged with Lyft and Uber in order to communicate with them some of the concerns related to what folks are experiencing. And if anybody on here uses a service dog, I'm sure that they can likely relate that probably 1 out of every 3 ride requests, I am typically abandoned on the side of the street and have to request another ride. Obviously, this is not something that your team can really directly handle, but I'm hoping that perhaps if you are in contact with them, kind of reinforcing the fact that this is an ADA requirement, and kind of reinforcing that with them from your perspective as well as all the complaints that we're submitting.
Absolutely, and I'll say, I mean, this is our number one issue with them generally, and as soon as we hear about something, we immediately escalate it to our contacts over there. And I mentioned earlier in this that we are in the process of finalizing the new contracts with our NDSP partners, and as a part of that, we've baked in some additional, I think, a stronger contract language around this, and some additional penalties that we didn't have before to really underscore the importance of this, according from the MBTA side.
That's great to hear. And if there's any way that we can escalate these experiences to you, so that way you can track it from a trending perspective, I think if you could educate us on that as well. Because I'll probably be submitting one form a week for you, if that helps at all.
Absolutely, and yeah, I mean, we say this about a lot of things, meaning all customer feedback, even when we like to hear nice things when people have to say them, but certainly complaints or issues, they're best directed to us through MBTA customer support. I think we'll have the information here a little later, but that's the 3200 number. There's also a form on the website you can use to submit that, but that is the best way to make sure it gets to us in a way that we can then make sure it gets investigated by the appropriate parties. We can look into it to respond. So certainly something like this, put that in there, and that will get flagged immediately, and we'll send that over too.
Great. Thank you very much.
Nicholas, I'll also follow up with you later this week, but RTAG has been doing some other advocacy efforts surrounding service animal refusals and some legislation, so I can keep you informed on that.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Susie?
Yeah, I'm Susie Backstrom with PCIL, and I've been a ride user and RideFlex, and I was just remembering, like, my little hint for how to talk to the Uber and Lyft drivers before they come is that I always like try and tell them how to find me. Like, I'm at this airport door, or I'm past this barriers, and I'm standing on this corner, and I'm wearing this, my Doctor Who sweatshirt. I'm just like all these things that are like, that they can clue into, and then they can find me. And also, if I need them to come in, I'll say in the note to them, the little text message, I'll say, please call out my name. Please get out of your vehicle and call out my name. And so all of those text messages before they come to you, they're supposed to read those. And so, yeah, if they don't do that, if you say I have a service animal, and they read that and they blow past, then they really are breaking the law, and we like they have said, this is going to be changed. But my hint from using the system is just to put everything in that note ahead of time. Like I say I have a cart groceries. I say I have a big sign. I'm wearing a Star Wars helmet. Just all these things that are really important that they can find out where I am. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Susie. Those are I think those are really good tips.
Great. Any other questions from folks? Yes, Jen?
Hi, Chris. Keeping with the RideFlex theme, on Friday, I was at the airport and calling a RideFlex, and I was so excited because it said if you want an accessible curbside pickup, do these actions, rather than walk to central parking or somewhere else. And it took 3 tries to actually get an Uber driver to get there. So they would come, they'd text, I'd say, where are you, the whole thing back and forth. And it turns out that they were in where, central parking. So have you had other customers complain that they have had that issue at the airport?
Yeah, I haven't. I can't say no, but I haven't heard any myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never used it before. It
Yeah.
said, accessible curbside pickup. And then when you ask for it, it puts in the exact door, tells them where they are, but the Uber drivers just didn't go there. Okay.
That's interesting. I mean, I can bring this back to the team too, and we can talk to, this was Uber specifically?
This was Uber, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just excited. I'm like, oh, I don't have to find my way to Central, because it was like a 7-minute walk. And
that would be a benefit, right? Yeah,
but
okay.
Anyway, thanks. I just wanted to let you know, and I can file a complaint if you'd like.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm going to read a chat note. We have one that says, I use regular Lyft/Lyft Silver all the time. Their policies are pro-disability, and I have only had 1 or 2 drivers not deal with my rollator. Lyft Silver members get an 800 number for customer service on screen. Sounds like they are pre-selecting dud drivers for the program. Still trying to convince them that CRVs and RAV4s are not accessible, though, and use notes works for me. Valerie?
Thank you. I'm trying to remember what I wanted to say. Oh, yes. May I bring up the cart issue at the end of the flex discussion?
You can bring it up right now.
Oh, thank you. The reason I'm bringing it up and I'm concerned when the new guidebook comes out regarding the ride, and there's much confusion over this cart issue. And I understand that the MBTA feels that bringing grocery carts onto ride vehicles, it creates a safety hazard. But taking your groceries out of the cart, putting your groceries in your lap, folding the cart and putting it in front of you in your seat, to me, is even a greater hazard if the driver has to suddenly stop and the cart is not affixed to the vehicle. Many times that I have gone into the vehicle with a rollator or with a walker, depending on where I'm going, I choose which mobile device to use. There have been carts attached to the lock area where they lock my rollator, and they lock so that the carts can't move. So I don't understand why they're suddenly saying that putting shopping carts is dangerous if they're attached to the locked area in the vehicle, and they're not locked in the walkway. I don't know where an MBTA person thought that these carts were being placed in the alleyway where people have to walk to get to their seats. These carts are locked up against the wall. They're not interfering with the exit door in cases of emergency. And I think that not maybe, but I think more discussion needs to be had before that guidebook comes out as to exactly how these carts should be placed in a vehicle that promotes security and safety for disabled and elderly people. I think that I took pictures of the inside of the vehicle when I was in there, and what might be a good idea is to have a trial run with the vehicle and the carts, and have an MBTA person ride along in a van, just to get a realistic assessment rather than drawing a diagram, get a realistic assessment of how these carts are placed in, how it would affect people who are in wheelchairs, what it would look like to fold up a cart and put it in the seat. in front of you, putting groceries in a empty seat. What impact would that have? I think a lot of these are ideas that are on paper, but not necessarily ideas that have been actually tested in real life situations. So just a suggestion before the new guidebook comes out, because these carts, someone said buy less groceries. For elderly people, we buy in bulk because it's hard to get out.
Yeah.
So just wanted to share that, and thank you.
Fully understand that's not the right answer. I will say, yeah, we recognize the difference between sort of thinking about this and what this actually means in real life, in the vehicles, and to our customers. And so, when we did go through the process of taking a step back to think about the baggage policy after we changed it, last spring or summer or fall, I don't remember when when we went to, before we changed it back, we did go out into the field. We did have team members out there in the vehicles with customers, with drivers, with various types of carts and varying amounts of baggage, and we did a lot of sort of simulations of different cases, and also talking to drivers. And this one is unfortunately a little tricky, and this is, there are still some tensions here, and part of the problem is, where those carts have been, locked up or secured previously it wasn't made for securement first. So that area, sort of the structural ability to withhold that is a concern for us. But also equally, in some ways, actually more importantly, is that when something is secured in that space, it is then removing that wheelchair securement space from being used for another passenger in a wheeled mobility device. And so, that is really the rub there. And we don't want to be putting ourselves in a place where a driver is then vehicles showing up to pick up someone, and now we have to say either we can't take you because someone else has their cart secured here, or now we have to wait while someone has to take all their stuff and move it somewhere else, or, they can't be accommodated. And so, I think first and foremost, our goal here is to make sure we are transporting customers and that we aren't denying any customers transportation. But I want to say, we do recognize, right, that I think particularly in the vans, the issue of baggage is, there's not a great answer. And this is one of the things when I indicated that we're going to take another look back at our vehicles, our fleet, our equipment, right, which is okay, maybe when we, in the next vehicle procurement, can we specify requirements for vehicles that include something that we can use to hold baggage for customers instead, right? So it's not having to sit on your lap or on the floor. When you get a van full, there's not a ton of available space, but I think, it certainly seems reasonable that there's some middle ground here on this. So, part of the problem is just the fit out of the current vehicles makes it hard for us to do this in different ways. And so, but like I said, we're, committed to taking a full look at our vehicles and what we can do. And this is one of the top areas where we think we can make the customer experience better, recognizing it'll be a little bit before we get those vehicles, but, I think we can make improvements here.
Yes, referring back to what Susan said, when we apply for the request a vehicle, we would indicate we're going shopping or we have a cart, so that when the vehicles are assigned, then they wouldn't assign a vehicle that has a trip scheduled with someone who has a wheelchair. I don't know how easily that could be done, but that would also be another suggestion, when you're requesting a ride, letting people know that you will be bringing a cart on, so they'll know, well, don't send someone who has a wheelchair on that ride. So just trying to brainstorm different ways to help to accommodate all of us, and not exclude anyone. But thank you so much.
Thanks, Valerie.
Thanks, Valerie.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few minutes left, so I'm going to make sure we get to our final slides. So if we could get to the next slide. Great. So just a reminder, you can contact RTAG at 978-893-8100. You can also email rtagboston@bostoncil.org. Or you can sign up for the RTAG newsletter, which will be posted in the chat. And if you're here in person and want to sign up, you can come find me afterwards. And you can visit mbta.com/RTAG to learn more. And then here are some upcoming meeting dates for those working groups that I mentioned earlier. These are going to be hybrid meetings that take place from 2 to 4 p.m., just like today's meeting, and they will take place from this boardroom. We have one every Thursday in April. The first one is for the ride on April 9th. And then we have one for blind, low vision on April 16th. We have community engagement and outreach on April 23rd and municipal coordination on April 30th. And if you are interested in joining any of these groups, you can reach out through the manners that I mentioned earlier, or you can come find us after this meeting, and we'll make sure to connect with you over which groups you're interested in joining. And I think that might be the last slide. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It looks like we have one. Oh, Will, I see your hands up. We'll take your question.
I didn't realize that this was the last slide, but I was just wondering if you guys, I know the ASL interpreter is pinned, but can you pin the boardroom as well, as it will help me with the seeing you guys speak if you guys are in the boardroom.
I will have that discussion with MBTA folks and see what we can do about in-person ASL interpreters.
No, I mean just pin the camera for the boardroom on Zoom.
Oh, sorry, one more time?
So the ASL interpreter is pinned so we can see him all the time. I'm wondering if you can do the same with the boardroom.
Oh, okay. I think we'll have to figure it out. It looks like they're pinned on our end.
Yeah. So can you do that with the boardroom so we can see you all the time?
Oh, a camera into the boardroom?
Yeah, so the camera there. So
We can't pin the boardroom so we can see a large picture of who's sitting there.
A large group. Oh,
yeah, it's been canceled on this section. We can't open that up. The pin section is closed on all of them.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, I will try to figure that out with the tech team. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
Have a
too,
nice
dear,
day.
for bringing that up.
Okay. Thank you to everyone today. Thank you.
Bye.